Alrighty. Hello, chat. But someone in chat actually said that they were looking forward to that hello more than anything else in their entire week. So I'm very glad I could give that to someone. Welcome back to the Triforce Tactics Podcast, episode 8. I am Spicy Appies, joined by my co-hosts Jirachy and RamKev. If you guys want to say hi real quickly.
Hello, I'm Jirachy. Because we have people who listen on Spotify who maybe don't know our voices. So hi, I'm Jirachy. I'm doing great.
Oh, right. And I'm RamKev. You might recognize
one
it.
job.
You might not.
And the three of us are joined today by the maybe most handsome man in the TFT community, Mr. Bryce Blum, if you want to say hello.
No one okay, wait, there's like a small subset of people who do talk about me being handsome, but 96% of Twitch chat thinks I'm crying or high every time I'm on broadcast.
You can be all three,
yeah,
for sure.
true.
You can be crying, high, and handsome all at once.
I appreciate you. You're right. We take those, I guess.
The TFT Streamer World Cup. Oh my goodness. You know, Bryce won my second bracket.
Ooh, we definitely take those.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Ben Shapiro. That's the other one I get all the time. Ben Shapiro.
So we'll just start off how we always do, just talking about how we're doing. And I can start. My week's been great. I've been pushing for a lot of content lately, like content creation side of things. And I've also started playing a lot of Pokemon in stream, like half TFT, half Pokemon. And it's been really fun. It's been really good. I also did a drunk stream this week on Ladder, where I played, technically I did two. I did one on Monday night, or one on Wednesday night, which bled into Monday morning, or Thursday morning, because I opened a beer, and I wanted to finish it, because I didn't want to waste it because it costs money. And so I was like, fuck it, I'll just send it Thursday morning at 10 a.m. And I did. And then turns out when you drink on stream, people like to gift you subs to drink more.
Yeah.
So one game I played RFC, Radiant RFC, IE set 3. And I'll tell you right now, for anyone who's wondering, his ult does not hit anyone, but he does still ult.
At least the ults, you have that going.
Yeah. So that's how my week's been going. How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm good. You know, no spoiler alert. If nobody's watched Worlds yet, see, I made it out, baby.
You can spoil that.
Let's go!
I need some garbage. Woo!
I mean, I'm pretty sure. Okay.
Okay, we're still okay. We're not as garbage. Woo!
Okay, we take those. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was more a representation of FPX being much worse than anyone thought, as opposed to Cloud9. Like, it was nice to see Cloud9 rebound though. It was like good to have a bounce back week.
Mm-hmm. You know, they went from 0-3 to it's like that one. What was that? When Fnatic did it, that a few worlds ago.
When Fnatic did it, they 3-0'd the backdoor though. Like we limped across the finish line and then won the tiebreak game in a slop fest.
We take those.
We take those for sure.
Someone in chat was asking about it was like a couple days ago about how many games like Milk needed to win to like do well in Worlds or something. And I think they like misconstrued TFT roles with League roles, and it broke my heart to break the news. It was. How are you doing, Jirachy?
I'm doing good. Glad to be back on this week. Was gone last week. Not a concert this time. I was in LA and I met some awesome people. Finally did the Megafurts meetup with Pi and Buzzy Boo. That was a great time. And then surprise, got to meet up with Tay and Frodan. Like, that wasn't planned at all, but I tweeted like, hey, I'm in LA. And Tay tweeted back, wait, how long? And do you want to hang out? So I got to hang out with some awesome people, but I didn't play TFT at all until literally yesterday.
Nice.
And then I played 6 games and climbed 100 LP and hit top 5 for the first time. And so we're doing a rank 1 push this weekend and challenging Kevin, because why not?
Wait, is it Kevin or Nico right now?
It's Kevin right now.
Kevin, yeah. I think Nico lost some LP.
I've been attempting to persuade Kevin to run it down to make me hitting rank 1 a little bit easier.
We're actually gonna have some literal okay business on the podcast.
You know, it is a couple weeks ago we were all holding. There's like a picture of us all holding hands on ladder. It's just like I think it's like Kevin Jirachy. I think Kevin is like 1 LP above Jirachy now. Who are the same LP, which is wicked funny. Yeah. How have you been, Bryce?
I'm great. My baby slept every night this week. Like 5 fucking nights in a row. Slept through the night. and like not always perfect in the going to bed department, but once she got asleep, she was asleep, and that is like my like sanity meter is like 1-to-1 tracked with my baby's sleep at this point in my life. So no, it's good. Life is good. Friday, I'm hanging out with you fine folks. I'm actually gonna be a little bit of high on this podcast, so we're just mixing it up for Twitch chat to keep them interested. But getting relaxed into my weekend, and I'm very
Not
much
crying though, at least not
crying.
crying.
There's tons of space for content. I also, by the way, to your point about people like watching drinking on stream, I think that would be fun to do this one time as like the podcast after hours, and we air it like later on, and then we're all just like drinking throughout. I think that'd be super fun.
Yeah, it tells you where my mind is that I saw like Kevin take a drink of something, and I was like, oh shit, I could go get a beer. like the content, baby, content. Not that I'm an alcoholic, because I rarely drink. One beer, like I'm out. I'm literally out cold.
Wait, really?
But yeah, I'm super lightweight. I don't know why, but I am. I got like blasted Wednesday night, and I had 2 drinks.
What?
Yeah,
Hey, even I'm not that much of a lightweight, and it's like nothing.
Now we have to do the after hours podcast because it'd be really funny to see from Appies on 1 beer to go from completely sober to pretty drunk to hammered to like asleep on his microphone over the course of the 3 hours. It'd be great.
Kevin in his own chat asking about the new Animal Crossing DLC.
I didn't know. I wasn't aware of this.
Ramblin was in my chat this morning. He was fucking pumped about it. Like the first he came in, he was just like, "Did you guys hear about the new? Did anyone hear about the new Animal Crossing DLC?"
Wait, what's in the DLC? What's in the DLC?
Apparently, it's just like I don't know. Apparently, like the update's really good, and there's like some paid DLC that's gonna include stuff people want.
I did not know that people still played this game. I thought this game had a moment like 6 months ago or something.
Oh yeah, I don't play it anymore for sure. I don't play it anymore.
But your level of enthusiasm about the content
doesn't mean I can
still play it, because otherwise you would be like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think it came out at such a good time. This is totally off topic, but it's fine. That's what we're about. But it came out at a perfect time because like it was right as quarantine came out, right? Or quarantine came out. Sheesh. That came out. Yeah, got this new game on
content.
Yeah, right when quarantine hit, it came out, and I remember I spent like 8 hours a day. So there were an unknown number to me of different cardboard box accessories and like things you can sit on, things you can build with in Animal Crossing. There are a large amount of cardboard boxes in that game. And so I made it my mission to make like a cardboard box, like fortress essentially. And so I was like 8 hours a day, just like farming cardboard boxes. And it just one day, like I got a box and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
I don't want to do this.
I really want to know what it's like to live a life where you can spend 8 hours on that.
I just graduated. I just graduated college, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like the perfect.
Yeah, I had nothing to do. I couldn't find a job. I was just existing. I guess I hadn't graduated. I had just gone home because they sent everyone home, and so I was doing like a couple online courses. I had finished my thesis already, my senior year. So I was like, I'm just gonna sit here and look for cardboard boxes for 8 hours a day. What
was your thesis on, out of curiosity?
So I did 2. I was a Japanese classics dual major. I think it was my classics one I did second, and it was on night and just a lot of like symbols, like a lot of So it's like ancient Mediterranean kind of stuff. But yeah, it was fun. I've been telling chat that at some point I'll drop my theses in the Discord, and chat gets a whiff of a theses drop, and they're all a bunch of piranhas jumping out of the water. So. Yeah. Anyways, on topic. So Bryce, you are notorious for being an amazing caster in the TFT community. And so one of the questions we want to start off with here, which also big shout out to Kana, who is a big member in the TFT community. If you've been around any stream, you've probably seen her with a sword next to her name in the Twitch chat, because she is modded in literally every TFT channel of all time.
Except for this one, apparently, by the way.
Oh, true!
Oh,
okay.
But she just puts in a ton of work. Like, the amount of work she's like Discord as well, just like dropping all the news and everything. It's really, really kind of her. So big shout out to Kana. She came up with these questions for us, and so she made our job very easy this week. And the first one we'd like to ask you, Bryce, is how many hours do you generally spend prepping before you cast like a big tournament?
Okay, so big tournament, are we defining that to be like regionals or bigger kind of thing? Or was big tournament like, does that include Challenger Series?
We could say like big tournament and like then like a Challenger Series. Like, is there a difference? Is there? Yeah.
There's definitely a difference. And I hate that there's a difference, by the way. Like, if I had my druthers, there would be no difference, and I would be exactly as prepared for every tournament as I am for regionals and for worlds. But just being super candid, like, the allocation of time in my life is very complicated. I have a kid, I have a full-time job, I have a wife, I have a bunch of family and friends in the area. And so
Flex
the
on.
way in which I get away with being as prepared as I get for worlds and regionals is by not being as prepared for the earlier stuff, if that makes sense. Like, I literally cannot ask for that much time from my wife to like be on solo parent duty and to like not spend time with her. I just don't think it's fair to her, so, or my family, so I don't. So I, like, in the earlier stuff, I spend, before Challenger Series, I would at bare minimum spend, let's say, 5 hours of like focused time, making sure I deeply understand the meta and making sure I'm like reaching out to, if I don't understand the conditions of something, I'm reaching out to a pro who I see is clearly it's clicking for them, and ask them a bunch of questions. And I'm really fortunate that people are very generous with their time with me and updating me. I've significantly deprioritized playing for the other events, because I think that if I'm gonna sacrifice any time, my playing time is probably my least efficient like preparation time. So that would be like 5 hours of study, and then probably very little, if any, playing at all. For worlds and for regionals, it's more like, I would guess minimum 40, but probably more. I will play a meaningful amount, and I will make sure by the time I'm casting one of those events, I will be actually good at the game. I like feel like it's really important to be able to talk at a higher level about like what openings are good, where I would go from different spots about them, to be able to call out mistakes. I think is really valuable on those stages specifically, because the mistakes tend to be more nuanced, and so most of chat is going to miss them. So if I can pick up on them and communicate it effectively to chat, I think that's like some of the better work that I can do as a caster in terms of value add. So I will play at least 20, 25 hours, and then I will do a meaningful amount of studying. I'm like, in this year lead up to regionals, I asked every single regionals player the same 5 questions. Kevin can attest. Like, I reached out to everyone. I made him give me real answers to them, which means that I took it seriously. And so like I'm like sorting through all that stuff, asking follow-up questions in a bunch of streamers' chats. Anyone who's doing well on the patch or who's playing in the event, I want to watch them. And I can like, I don't, you like scratch the surface of this, because it depends on when I happen to be on a certain player, what is going on, and whether or not I can talk about it. But like, I could give you a 10-minute answer on every single player at regionals in terms of how I think, what are their strengths and weaknesses right now, what are they good at, what are they not good at on this specific patch, as well as generally as a tournament player, and should be able to speak to their preparation as well. Sorry, that's a long-winded answer, but yeah, I mean, it's like for like the bigger tournaments, I take my job incredibly seriously. For the other tournaments, I think I take my job pretty seriously. Maybe I set an unfair bar for myself in terms of what reasonable prep would look like. I'd actually be very curious if you had all of the casters on for them to answer that same question, to see if like 5 hours is a lot for some of those other tournaments, or if it's not very much.
I'm curious, when you say 40 hours for leading up to regionals, over how long of a span of time is that?
Probably 2 weeks, right? The second, it depends on when it gets patched. From the moment the worlds or regionals patch starts, I am locked. Because the way I look at it is, I already know. I've played at least 100 games a set. I hit challenger every set. Like, it's not like I don't know how to play. Like, I'm always at least meaningfully up to date. So I view the job as to become as much of an expert on the relevant patch as the field is. And like, the delta between me and the field should be as small as I can possibly make it. And I cannot put in that kind of energy throughout an entire set, because I just don't have the time to allocate, but I can do it, a couple of times a set for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Damn.
It's a big commitment to get that much information, and hell yeah for doing that. I can't imagine this. They definitely have to come with a passion for casting, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, this is the best. This is the fun part of my life. Like, the time I talk about it like, okay, in order to give time for this, I have to pull from other places. But like, this is the part of my life that, like, if I get to put time in this, like hanging out with the 3 of you on a Friday afternoon, love this. This is great.
I love how you say, like, oh, this is like the side thing, the thing I do for fun, and you put in 20 hours a week on it. Like,
Yeah.
just those couple weeks though.
Events, like, you're willing to do that. Like, that's nuts. Like, seriously, kudos. Like,
Yeah, it's
It's
a
passion.
fun hobby.
We are blessed to have some really dedicated and passionate casters in the scene for sure. But
I +1 from me.
But
Mm.
next question from Kana. So we touched on how busy you are between a family, a full-time job, and casting is just your side gig. Do you feel like you need to, for you personally or for others, you need to be a certain rank in order to be able to cast at a high level?
Okay, I think that I do not need to obtain the rank in order to be able to cast at a high level, but I do think it's important that I maintain the rank for perception only, if that makes sense. Right? Like, I am positive that whether or not I hit Challenger this set was going to have absolutely no impact whatsoever on the quality of my casting at regionals and at worlds. But Frodan is a huge influence on this, by the way, because I asked him this question expressly, like a set and roughly a set and a half ago. Like, I think heading into 4.5, I was like, how important do you think that this is? Because it's harder and harder for me to allocate the time, and like I've already proven I can get Challenger if I want to. Like, it's literally just a time equation. Can I invest the time to get up to speed and then play on the patch? Right? Like, if I get up to speed and play on the patch, like I can get an average of like high 2s, low 3s, like every time in high Challenger lobbies if I actually get up to speed. But that's just really hard to do. And so I guess the reason why I think it's important is because I can't sit everyone down and have the conversation we're having right now. Like, if like every TFT fan could have this conversation with me, understand that like it's purely a time equation, and like, boy, would it be nice to give up like probably 30-ish hours, right, of time and say like I don't worry about hitting Challenger. I'm just gonna play to like understand and then not care about whether or not I hit this arbitrary threshold. Then I would save that time and spend that time in other areas. It'd be nice to have that time back in my life. But I think that Twitch chat is already predisposed to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, they predispose, I think, at some level to a percentage of Twitch chat to criticize casters specifically. And I think in particular, since I'm the caster that's most likely going on a limb and say, I think this player's doing something wrong. If literally the answer that you get back from Twitch chat on that is not a substantive engagement of the discussion point of like, I think this is wrong and here is why. I think this is why. Dan's really good at getting me to think about why are they doing it. So if you can say, I think they're doing it for this reason, I think that is incorrect, and I think this is why it's incorrect, that feels like a very good casting flow, at least that, from my perspective vis-a-vis Dan. And Twitch chat doesn't care. There's like, bronze player criticizing whatever. Like, it's not about the merit of the discussion point at all, as if like debating with Bill Belichick, or Bill Belichick about football, or Greg Popovich about, basketball had anything to fucking do with how good they are now, or were ever, by the way. Like, the two of the smartest minds of the coach of, history of coaching in North American professional sports that were never high level players. And for some reason, we like care about the rank of these people to be able to speak authoritatively. Anyway, I digress. So I think that it matters. I think that being able to say back to people, I'm Challenger, shuts them up. And that's kind of nice to not have to like argue with this person over whether or not I'm credible. Even if whether or not I happen to hit the threshold, like this set affects my matters at all, which I do not think it does.
Gotcha. That was a great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
No
it's it's very easy to look in a Twitch chat and someone's casting and you're like what the fuck is the person they're talking about? Like, they have no idea, like they're not on the tournament. Why are they talking? They don't know. Stop talking. You don't know. Yeah.
Don't talk if you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was alluding to. It's definitely a mindset thing in Twitch chat. So I can see having the it's like having having the certificate, hanging up on your wall. You can say, "Fuck yeah, I'm a doctor." Or, like look at the plaque, bro. So yeah, that definitely it provides a lot of support.
Yeah.
So you don't.
By the way, can I respond to chat really quickly?
Yeah.
So the most recent, like, Soju Cast versus official class theory, they have insight in the game that is valuable. Okay, so this is really, really interesting point, right? Because on the one hand, I totally hear where I Like Cats is coming from, and I also like cats, by the way. So great name. So on the one hand, I totally hear where this person is coming from, and I think that there is a level of insight that if you had RamKev on a broadcast, that there are things that RamKev is going to notice and be able to talk about that I cannot talk about, for sure, right? Like, I do not think I'm able to fully close the gap. But I close the gap far more than these people realize, if that makes sense. So like this person is saying like, I think that a high challenger player on the broadcast like can add a different layer of insight. And my take on that is, I think that that's not true for almost any of the players. Certainly if you're at regionals or whatever, anyone who could be talking about that at a level that's materially higher than me is playing. And so, but because I cannot say that I am high challenger, right? Which I will literally never have the opportunity to do because I've played fewer games in the history of TFT, despite the fact that I played since set 1, since many challenger players played this set, right? Put that in perspective. So yeah, I just think I think it's very interesting when you think about the relativistic value that your LP has on your credibility in the TFT community, right? It's why people underrated RamKev for like ever.
And there's also it's a total different skill set to be able to understand the game at that kind of level and explain the game at that kind of level. Like with Soju, since that's the example that got brought up. Like it's very clear he knows a lot about the game. Like you watch him play, you watch him stream. There's a lot going on, but I also watch him coach. And it frustrates me so much because his skill set is not really in explaining the game in a fluent way and detailed enough from what's coming from his mind. Like you can tell it's happening in his mind. It's just not coming out of his mouth. So like someone like Soju is a great example of having like just because you have a pro player on the cast doesn't mean it's inherently better than like a professional caster who is not quite as good, but does a much better job of explaining. So,
that's part of the reason why I think you'll be a good caster, because when you stream, you articulate what you're thinking, the way you're thinking about it very succinctly. And I think that's a really super important skill for casting.
Yeah. And I guess that's the spoiler / announcement of this cast. I've been contacting Risa, but I'm going to try to cast set 6 events. I'm not going to try. If I don't get to cast, I'm going to play set 6 events. But I'm going to be trying to cast. So
sorry, I didn't realize that was like a spoiler. I thought that you've already done some stuff.
Dropping the bomb.
It's not something I've really like talked about officially, quote unquote. This is the first time I've like kind of officially talked in that world. Like I've dropped like I want to do casting, I want to do other stuff, but like this is kind of that step of I've decided that. So. That's kind of the announcement. I don't know.
I love it.
Let's go.
I didn't realize it was an official announcement, but hell yeah.
Let's go. Jirachy was holding the mic out, and Bryce just took it and chucked it over.
I'm never getting invited back.
What does it? Volcano's other questions does kind of segue into this though. So coming from, and this is something that I want to know an answer to also. Like, and I've been talking to Risa, but what advice would you give to people who want to get into casting major events? And this is something that, especially casting major events, like I've talked to Giant Slayer, I've casted for them before, and I've kind of gotten in their minds like, hey, I can cast smaller stuff, but especially for like the bigger stuff, because I messaged Risa before regionals, I was like, any chance I can cast? And she was like, I mean, we set this a while ago, but I'll keep you in mind. So advice for people who want to cast major events. Yeah.
I would say, okay, so taking steps is really important, right? I had to like, crawl before I could walk, before I could run or whatever in my casting journey here, where I like, the first thing I read was Fight Night Rising, right? And it was super fun. And then I did, like Ray and I did a for fun tourney, that was like really like a random duos thing that wound up being super fun. And we were just kind of low key hanging out and kind of casting in. And like the more opportunities came from that. And I was like, oh, we're interested in like vetting people. And I got like the next invite up. It was like, I can't remember what it was. It was like one of the like lower tier tournaments. I did a Team Liquid
Challenger Series.
Yeah, maybe. I did a Team Liquid tournament, like back when they were running some of the qualifiers, if you guys remember from back
like set 3, right?
Yeah, like set 3.
Early
So
set
like
3
I
stuff.
did,
And set 4.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
set
Set
4.
4?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds right. Anyway, so like I did a little bit of stuff here and there, and kind of slowly kept saying like, yeah, I'm interested in this. I got more opportunities, and I think the reason why I was able to keep going up, and that when I got the opportunity at one level, I think I was asked, you know, to be able to get the opportunity to the next level, is because I was always very intentional about working on it. I recognized that casting was a skill, and that it was something that you can put time, energy, and effort into him to improve upon. And so I think having a really focused mentality about like, I watched every cast that I did, I watched the VOD of, and every single time I was asking for anyone who I knew who was watching the broadcast. If I saw someone in chat or whatever, and I was watching a VOD, I'd ask for feedback about how they felt. Frodan was like if you can become good friends with Frodan, that's my number one piece of fucking advice, right? Because this dude like sat over my shoulder of this journey when like I did not realize how bad I was at the beginning, and then he would be like, "You're so good, but work on these things." Then I'd go back and I'd re-listen to it now, and it's like, holy crap, I was making like hundreds of egregious mistakes throughout, and I just didn't realize it. And now that he like slowly but surely gave me more things to improve on, thinking about other resources, taught me how to watch my own VODs and think about like how to philosophically approach your casting. He should do like he could do like a 5-minute video. I'm sure that would be like infinitely more valuable than anything I'm saying right now. But just being thoughtful about the way in which you improve and building on it as a skill, and trusting that you're going to get there in time. And like, it's going to be a ladder. You're not going to go from doing a Fight Night Rising to doing regionals in the same set. It's just not going to happen, right? Like, you need to get more reps, prove that you can work at each different level, work with other casting pairs, hone your craft, and then eventually you can get to that level. And even then, I like work my butt off at it because I'm the least skilled caster of the group. They're all professionals at this. And so they have a lot more skill over control of their voice and things like that than I do, and intonation and energy, and they're so much more polished than I am. And so I like try to make up that polish as much as I possibly can. And then I work my ass off on the knowledge side so that at least I can bring interesting insight from that perspective.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the last question that I think one of the big things. So you certainly can get a lot from watching a streamer, like a high challenger player, watch a tournament and cast it themselves. But you miss out on so much of like just the color of a professional commentator, like the ability to just like make it a really enjoyable experience beyond just like the gameplay necessarily. So I was gonna just say that in the last point, that like there's definitely a give and take for that kind of thing. So. And you heard it here first. Go talk to Frodan if you want to cast.
Yeah, Frodan.
Hit him up.
Frodan is awesome. Both
His DMs are now open.
Kind of connecting stuff though. Also, part of why like a lot of pro players, they're not the best to get like this kind of this casting from, is because most of them haven't spent that much time like Bryce has on going back in your VODs of your casting and improving your casting, not just improving your play, improving your game knowledge. It's a lot of people don't actively take the time to improve how they articulate these points. So that makes a big difference. So, and again, it means that someone with maybe slightly less knowledge will still be able to get their point across much better than the better player ever can, because they've actively worked on the articulation of that point.
And that's, by the way, there's a more macro point about that like even if you can communicate it effectively, it's not always correct to. There are tons of things that I think I'm like, oh, there's like a really interesting nuanced thing going on here, and I'm like, yeah, but it's probably not worth even if you can explain it succinctly and takes 30 seconds, 45 seconds, it's not worth it, right? Because it's going to be over the head of most of the audience. So it's not like do you want, if 98% of the audience is like, at a certain level, is it worth it to talk up here? Is that actually what we want? Like, do I want my football games broadcast by like the best, the smartest? Do I want Bill Belichick casting? Like, even if he could articulate, do I actually want to know what goes through that man's brain? Because like, I'm not sure I can understand the intricacy of it.
There's definitely a level of bias to anyone in Twitch chats or wherever that says that they'd rather have like a bunch of high elo players cast a tournament as well. Because like they use examples like watching like Soju, for example. Not that like watching him cast a tournament is not enjoyable, because it is, right? But I think a lot of that is that people enjoy watching Soju, and so like they think that because they enjoy watching Soju cast a tournament more than enjoying watching like a caster cast a tournament. But like if you were, let's say it wasn't Soju, right? Let's say you had 3 random high elo players that were small streamers, no one really watched them. If they were casting a tournament and they were making the same kind of commentary that like Soju or say GB8 or someone was doing, you wouldn't want to watch that. I don't think that'd be interesting at all.
Jirachy and RamKev?
Yeah.
It sounds good. Like, let's do that one. Let's go with that one.
I would. Watching the two of you cast would be so fun. It would be. That sounds good.
Triforce
like,
Tactics actually wouldn't be that bad.
it'd be fun. It'd be really
That'd be
fun.
enjoyable.
We'll get
I
there.
think you guys have. I think you have great energy for it. I think it'd be like you would be like the like low key stream, right? Like there'd be the other streams, the high people yelling at each other, and you guys would be having like, or you would all have like a really fun level conversation about
Like
TFT.
a sarcastic like we're sitting around a chessboard and like there's a chimney goes like a fire going, all the glass of whiskey making snidey remarks.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah, just a
you
little
can't
bit
let
of
me
sass
cast
and a
on my
heavy
own.
dose of memes too, right?
Yeah, of
heavy
course,
dose
of
of
course.
memes.
That's
If
what
I were to
we're
cast
going
on my
for.
own, though, I feel like everybody listening would think all of the players in the tournament are like the worst players of all time because I would be saying a lot of mean things.
I would.
Damn.
I would love one time you and I should hang out during a tournament when I'm like not casting. I would love to just hear the things that you think. I think it would be so fascinating.
Yeah.
When we
I can
talk
already
about
feel
tier
now.
lists later, I agree with Kevin. I think I would also say a lot of mean things, and I want to talk about why I think Kevin and I would both say a lot of mean things. That chat would say they're mean, but they probably wouldn't really be mean.
Yeah.
So and that's why I think like watching a high elo TFT player cast a tournament is not all it's cracked up to be. It's more like people misconstruing that with like watching their favorite streamer, high elo streamer cast a tournament. And so, you're in Kerm's chat watching him, you're not watching Kerm chat's tournament, probably. You may be like you're in Soju's chat and you're like, the Kerm chatters are hands upping in chat, the like Kyun and Kerm on the call, the Kyun chatters are doing whatever Kyun chatters do, and like, it's like a little party, and then I don't know. It's definitely
It's a watch party. It's not a cast.
yeah, essentially.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a totally different thing and it's a different appeal, and we should have both. Like the official cast is there for a reason to market. Like we're gonna explain what's going on very articulately and make sure you know exactly what's happening. And then you have the watch party, which is just let's just listen to Soju and Lobby 2 just vibe and have a good time and laugh. Like
Which is really fun. It's super fun.
It's so much fun. Like and that we should have both, but they are two different entities, and I think not enough people realize that.
It's like if you're just getting into TFT, what would you rather watch? A bunch of like high challengers just like flaming people all the time, right? Or like an actual informative cast. There's a difference, and they're tailored for different audiences, right? Like,
Totally. I also think that we have not begun to scratch the surface of what a great TFT main broadcast is going to look like. Like, I think that there's a lot of additional value that we can be bringing to the table. I mean, Dan and I have had tens of hours of philosophical discussions about like the best way to approach casting TFT, and some of that stuff you will actually see like bear out. Like, for example, if you go back and watch our VODs from a year ago, they will look a lot different in a couple of material ways. Like at every neutral stage, Dan and I will pause whatever conversation we're having, we'll wrap it up, and we will use the neutral round as a way of kind of framing the bigger picture story of the lobby. Like, who is win streaking? Who is loss streaking? What does that mean? When are people likely to roll? Is this on game plan? Like, if it's Milk at 68 HP playing Kledge, it's like, this is exactly what's supposed to be happening, no stress. If it's someone who's not a full loss streak player we've seen be playing from ahead, mostly it's a different conversation. It'll be like, oh, it'll be very interesting. This person's very likely to be rolling down, depending on the set, 3-2, 3-5, 4-1. Here's what they're gonna be looking for. We haven't got to see them play it from the spot. Like, it'll be interesting to follow that. And that's also a cue to the spectator that, like, we want to be, this person's next stage could be interesting. Like, let's make sure we keep an eye on it. And also from an enthusiasm perspective, like making TFT hype, watch parties will never make TFT hype, ever. Right? Because they're all just going to be, it's always like a low key conversation kind of a thing. Whereas with casting, you can like do the play by play and build the crescendo. And like, I mean, Dan can give me hype about anything, as can Admirable for that matter. And so like in the hype moment of TFT, having that is really additive from a value perspective. But I think that the main broadcast still has a long way to go in terms of like making the spectating great, using the observer tools to like make that good. I think there's plenty of more refining of the craft from the casters as well. So I think there's a lot of room for growth.
I think one of the biggest things to keep in mind when watching a TFT broadcast of a tournament or just like anything in general with TFT is that it's still a very young game. It's still a game, like esports wise, it's in its infancy. And there's a lot of, I mean, we've seen a lot of growing pains, but every single one gets better and better, and we're working towards something a lot better. So it's just like, yeah, like a game at the beginning of its lifespan. I'm sure if you watch some like old league VODs, right, from like from like early league, it's gonna be Pega as fuck.
They're
like,
pretty bad now. You listen back, you're just like, these were the good casters at the time, and like now it gets blown out of the water. Like it's a young game. Everything about it's gonna get better. Like even though the observing back then was not great, everything gets better, and especially if this game sticks around for a while, like we'll evolve to the point. I don't know if we're gonna evolve to the point League is at, just because League has had so much time to get to where it is. But we'll get pretty far. We literally just need time. Like we have good people in the scene working behind the scenes, working on casts. We'll figure out how to make it good and how to evolve all the production stuff.
I think an important thing to keep in mind is that they have a lot of room to grow, but it's already good. So the fact that like this is where we are and we still have so much room to grow is super promising, I think, as a scene just in general. Whether that be casting, whether that be the tournament scene, whether it be the players, the communities, the content, everything is it's all up from here. It really is. So a lot to look forward to in TFT.
Plus one. Completely agree.
Exciting times we live in.
It is.
Hell yeah.
People have short memories about this stuff too. Like everyone's freaking out now, but like it will get better, and then people will forget.
I heard. Okay, so all these like set 60s have been coming out recently, and like people was just play tested it and like are all giving their opinions on Twitter. And the one I was most excited for was Socks saying that it felt like Slay the Spire, and that every game was like really different. And if that doesn't give you a little inkling on like how much this is gonna grow and how much better TFT is gonna get in it, I don't know. I mean, if you like Slay the Spire, then like you better be fucking pumped when you hear Sock say that, because I'm fucking pumped. Like I don't know how you don't get excited hearing that.
I'm excited. Just the universal positivity. I haven't seen this group of like naysayers lockstep about anything, pro or con. So for them all to be on the same page and be like, this is gonna be the best set ever, it's like, oh my god.
You know how it's gonna be good is when Dasik is not flaming the shit out of it.
Yeah, so
Dasik has been like, it looks pretty good. Like when Dasik says it looks pretty good, it's probably pretty fucking good.
Yeah, Mortdog like clipped that and blew it up and framed it and put it on his wall, right? Like, it's pretty good, Dasik.
It's like I don't know if anyone watches any Mikey Shen videos. I know Kevin does, but he'll say that the best compliment an Asian person can give to a dessert is that it's not too sweet. It's like Dasik is just giving it the not too sweet, you know. So I'm excited.
Be dope.
Yes, and so
wait, how much of it can we talk about?
I would be.
We should. Yeah, I don't think we have to talk about much. I don't think the leaks are important.
They have like a scheduled leaks thing, right? Like of like what they want to talk about when. So
I'm not even sure what's been leaked or not.
Yeah,
there was a big thing on
what is the
today, but I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm
not saying anything.
There was something on Reddit, but also just like for me, it's like I don't want to even look at it until it's on PBE and I'm playing PBE. So it's set 6, like it's this kind of entity that like kind of exists in my mind, but it's barely there. Like me personally, I'm focused so much on set 5 still that I'm just like, that 6 exists. I don't know.
I'm not sure if it was a leak or if it was official, but it involves.
You look so cynical. There's a conspiracy.
It involves food, and I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. I'm super excited.
I've never seen someone pick their words so carefully. You were like,
no, I think it got leaked on officially on Twitter that Tahm Kench is a 5 cost.
Yes, and he has the glutton.
Okay,
that's official. It's Tahm Kench. It's Tahm Kench. I'm so pumped for Tahm Kench.
Okay, I haven't looked at anything. I'm curious what they're gonna do with Tahm Kench as like legendary, because I look at his league kit and I'm just like, it's all kind of basic and wouldn't translate to like legendary in TFT.
Did you see the gimmick, Jirachy? Like how he works?
Wait, that's gonna
you feed him like bench units. You like buy units and feed them to him. And
that's so cool.
Permanent stat increases.
Wait.
So, like, if you get like a really early TK, I guess you just start feeding him, and he probably
sounds like a gacha game.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, it's a gacha
unit.
If I can balance that, that's gonna be awesome.
Right. I have no but I have no idea what Tahm Kench's ability is.
Maybe he just sits there. He's like set for Tahm Kench, but you can
he sits there on him just come.
Wait, I'm not leaking. No,
that's not leaking.
Wait a second. No. Silent literally said Tahm Kench legendary unit that eats units for stats, all caps. I'm literally just saying what this person said.
That's perfect.
We're good.
I think we're fine.
Okay.
We're all good.
Let's
we're
leave
fine,
the rabbit hole alone, though. Like, that's all we're going to talk about for set 6. We'll have plenty to talk about with set 6 next week, because PB is going to be out before next week, right? I'm getting my timing right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll have plenty to talk about it with.
It's
About
next
it for
Tuesday,
next 2
I
weeks.
think, or Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
All I
one of those
know
2 days.
is my one goal for set 5, why I'm very focused on set 5 right now and not set 6, is I'm trying to get a spat start so I can hard force Leona 3 with Sin Spat. I've been trying for like a week now, and I have not gotten a single fucking spat start. And it's pain to have to play every game, and I see it. There's no spat start, and I have to play a whole game of TFT. But that's my one goal for the rest of this set.
One
He
day
still
we'll
hasn't
get
done it
Dommy
yet.
Mommy.
We have 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We have 2.5 weeks left.
I know.
I
I want to
have
play
to get it in.
Isn't it literally just this Wednesday?
PBE.
Oh, yeah,
this,
no,
this
PBE
coming
is this
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I wanted to
Wednesday.
before PBE.
Yeah.
But-
Before PBE. Oh, you got
Yeah,
3 days.
Yeah,
4 days,
I
maybe?
committed to this, and then I've played like 40 games, and I have not seen a spat opener. So we're trying to get there.
I believe.
Hands up. You already know it's gonna be a tuber. If I go anything but 8th, it's a tuber.
Anything but 8th.
Yeah,
Oh, I gotta.
Even if it's
No, no,
8th,
no, no, no,
it's
just-
still tuber. Come on.
Just like.
I need to make a macro so I can to type in chat before the first carousel, before everyone gets their unit. If there's a Leona with a spat, I need to type fast enough. Give me Leona, you all go top 7. Like, I need to make a way to type that quickly enough where no one takes the Leona with spatula.
You have to load quickly. You have to have the recognition.
Yeah.
And they have to listen to you too, Appies. Which if you were in my game, and you did that, I just go for the Leonas because I was like, I don't know why this matters. I'm gonna fuck with them, right?
2 words. Actually, no. 1 word. Macro. Whenever I'm in like 2020 reroll comp mode, I literally put a macro on my mouse to type out, hit enter, and type out like me horsey, and then I can do that before first carousel.
Yeah,
That's some true degen shit.
Yeah, that's the last goal left to me in set 5. You know, I had a couple goals. I had a drunk stream. I had a drunk stream. I didn't hit rank 1, but I was 20 LP from it, then went 8/8, so I'm fine with that. So I did hit rank 1 technically because I was first a challenger, but I did not hit rank 1 after. I was like 1720 when Sauce was like 1740, which sucked. But yeah, I mean that and the drunk stream I guess were my biggest goals. So and I was just Dommy Mommy and we're good. Yeah. No, I've really outdone myself with how ambitious I've been this set.
Yeah, you really aim for the stars.
yeah. Maybe the opposite. Maybe I'm
I mean,
kind of
rank 1 is a pretty good goal as far as goals go.
Yeah, it's a fun one. Not quite as rewarding, I think, as playing Leona 3 and not going 8th. With Sin Spat, obviously. You can play Leona 3 and go first, but when you put the Spat,
3 and go first.
I'm gonna tell you.
I played a game with Leona 3 today.
I'm gonna give you the secret tech, by the way, because I'm in theory crafting this. The best in slot is Sin Spat, ZZ Rot, and either Redemption or Sunfire, I think.
Makes sense.
So what you do, you make this Leona jump to the back line, everything starts hitting it, and then you just have to have perfect items for a Nocturne 3. And you just pray. You pray that you have perfect items for Nocturne 3, and that's your board.
I mean, I'm pretty sure best in slot, if you are mandating that you have Leona 3 with Sin Spat, is just the Sin Spat and put all your items somewhere else.
Hold on. Okay, if you really want to make Leona work, Appies, here's what you do. Sin Spat, Rage Blade, BT, Stag Zeeks. That's the only way you can do it because then she needs to carry. Then she can carry.
Do you know how much base attack speed Leona has? It's like 0.5.
Yeah, that's why you
have
need
3
the Rage
Zeeks
Blade
and Rage
and
Blade,
3 Zeeks.
And she'll still be like,
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. No.
It's not fun.
You don't
It's
even
not
need
fun.
3 Zeeks. You can make 6 Zeeks. Right?
It's
You can
not
make 6 of
fun.
them.
It's
It
not
takes
fun.
Radiant Zeeks, Radiant Rage Blade. Wait. Radiant Zeeks, Radiant Rage Blade. And
I like you listed 3 radiant items to make a carry work. I think we've gone too far.
I'm also
You know-
pretty sure that if you try your way, Kevin, Appies tries his way, and I try just not putting other items on her, that I'm gonna have fucking better results.
No.
Like, there's no way.
I'm telling you
I
right now,
wish.
it's gotta work. It's like Baby Nocturne with no AoE and no damage.
Baby Nocturne, like really, really shitty Baby Nocturne. Like Baby Nocturne with like half the attack speed, a tenth of the damage, and a slight bit more tank because she doesn't heal and Nocturne heal.
Okay, but what does more DPS? Nocturne 1 or the Sinspat Leona 3? Because I'm pretty sure it's
Leona
still
3.
Nocturne 1.
It's
It's
Leona
item.
3.
Leona
Yeah,
3 is
Leona
like
3 is
like a
attack.
lot.
The
Okay.
AD is insane.
Nocturne 2 or Leona
Okay, Nocturne
3.
2 for sure. Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, Leona's base AD is actually so fat though. There's something cooking there. If you have like 6 Zeeks and a Sinspat and a Rage Blade.
Exactly. And a Rage Blade and a
If you
PT.
have 12 items at stage 5.
Yeah, honestly, I think they should just make one for like the last day of the patch. If they just made it so Leona only can have 5 items on her, I can make it work.
Okay.
So,
one
Mortog,
message
if you're watching, Kent, if you're watching, you know what to do. Okay, business.
That's the Cage business right there.
Okay,
Yeah.
business.
Okay, business. Anyway, is that how we finish that discussion? Here's a question I kind of had that I think is a really good one, Bryce. So, and I don't know what your I guess insight with this would be, but she asked, a lot of players want to be signed on by an org as a player and or streamer, and what is your best advice to them on how to find a team, how they should make themselves more marketable, what should they do when they get an offer, etc., etc. So I guess like almost like the marketability of like players and streamers and that kind of thing.
So I have a ton. For those of you who don't know, my law firm, this is all we do, right? We're a full-time dedicated esports law firm. We rep most of the big teams. So I have a very good sense of like what those contracts look like, what they're looking for, etc. So I can give a decent overview here. So starting point is that TFT is still too new in its journey and too small for TFT pros to be super valuable to teams as just pros, right? Like the prize pool is relatively limited. The exposure is relatively limited. There's just not enough there yet for a team to be super interested in someone as a pro in and of themselves, right? So really, if you want to sign to a team, you're going to need to be a pro / streamer, is what I'm saying, right? Like you need to you need to do something else that's going to sweeten the pie, generically speaking. I mean, I'm not saying there are no exceptions to this, but if you want to be on a like tier 1, tier 2 team, then you probably want to have some streaming numbers. What does that mean? Varies wildly by team and your expectations around compensation, right? Like your compensation package could be in the thousands of dollars in fixed monthly compensation, or it could just be like an additional bonus based on how much content you produce, right? Like what are your viewable hours for the month? Ideally what should happen is that if you're really interested, you build a stream, you feel like you get to a good point in your stream where you've built up numbers that you think are worth pitching, and you find a way to get connected to them. I've helped definitely a couple of players here and there do that. If it makes sense, I'm happy to, though I have to be careful about treating my relationships. So if someone comes to me and is like, hey, I'm interested, be prepared that I'd have a very candid conversation, and like there's a world in which that conversation might not be what you want to hear, but I might say like, hey, I don't think you're actually at the stage where this client is going to take it super seriously, and so I'm not sure that it's worth it to recommend. I think you're going to like hurt your chances of getting noticed by them when you actually get to a certain point, right? Because they'll kind of feel like they've already made up their mind on you. And so yeah, if you do get to the threshold where it makes sense, then it's pitch yourself as best you can, talk to a lawyer before you sign your contract. Ideally, I recognize it's not always going to be easy. Not everyone can afford it, but like there are some lawyers out there that would help you pro bono or close to it, get a professional look and make sure that you get what you want out of this contract, and then do it and enjoy and try to perform your best and see how it goes, right? I think the future of I would not sign like a crazy long-term contract, because I think TFT has potentially a bright future, and if you wind up signing a 3-year deal on a really low compensation number, you're not leaving yourself space to go up if your stream blows up, if the game blows up, right? But I also don't think that it's going to go from where we are now to massive instantly. So you should be able to see the writing on the wall and adjust how you're feeling about it based on that.
That was super insightful.
That was a lot.
The insights.
Yeah, that is like, well, that in many ways I'm more qualified to talk about that.
Yeah.
About TFT. Like
yeah, that was a fucking insane answer. I love it. That was such a good answer. Yeah, I mean, I obviously I'm very limited. I'm not even like an inkling of the experience Bryce has, but it just seems like everyone who's gotten signed so far in TFT is someone who has a big stream, who has a lot of exposure. So that's definitely the way to go about it.
And it makes sense if you're them. That's a decision I would make too at this stage. Like objectively, I would look at this and say, we'll see where TFT goes. But for now, I'm more interested in this as a content play than I'm as a pure esports play.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of it's going to be like for those people as well. I mean, the big they want to see longevity beyond like potentially if TFT like doesn't hit it big, which I think it will, but they want, you know, there has to be longevity beyond that for like content as well. So
Yeah, and that's an ideal world, right? Because then they look at you
Yep.
as something they can build a relationship around, and even if the game goes away, you don't. But for a lot of these, it's like, hey, if your game were to significantly dip in popularity, they just move on, right? Like, and
Yeah.
that would be true in both directions potentially. I also, as a macro note here, not just aspiring people, TFT as a whole could do a much better job on the influencing and content creation front.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, like, I
Oh
can,
yeah.
there's like literally one TFT player that I think has like really good Twitter, and it's Ray. And then I think that there's like a handful of other people who do a pretty good job with their Twitter. And then the rest of them are like crap. And like a
TFT
lot of
Twitter
people,
doesn't exist. It's-
yeah.
Yeah.
Which
it's
it
sad.
should, and then like YouTube, definitely some people are heading in that direction, which is a nice, you know, good thing, and people are trending on terms of streaming consistency and stuff like that. But I think that there's a lot of ways we could help ourselves on that front too.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for growth content wise for sure. I think like this podcast, for example, is a push from the three of us to you know, help bolster TFT content, like start getting it out there. There's a Jeopardy show tonight that RamKev and I are on, if anyone wants to watch as well.
Oh, yeah.
RamKev, Ramblin, and I. So it's definitely, again, it's the game's in its infancy, and like there were growing pains for sure, but there's a lot of room for growth in every aspect: players, content, casters, tournaments, everything. So yeah, if you have any idea, like chat, if anyone out there just has an idea for some sick TFT content, be the one who does it. Honestly, there's so much room for it. There's a want for it as well, for sure. There's a want for it beyond just like watching a high level player play TFT. You know, there's I don't know.
Yeah,
I
there's just
completely agree
a
with
lot
that. You have to build. It takes time. Like what
Yes.
the three of you are doing this podcast is a great example of you start and you become consistent and you'll pick up more and more viewership over time, because I think the product is really good. I've really enjoyed what I've watched. And like Gangly, for example, does amazing shoulder content for
Yes.
our events, like so good. Not experiencing a ton of viewership yet, but trending in the right direction. The quality is there and the viewers will follow. It's a little bit of a war of attrition.
Yeah, and over on the content side, we kind of like we started this because we were like, there's no TFT podcast, like Teamfight Talk Show. I mean, you could call it a podcast, but not really. I mean, it's somewhere between like talk show and podcasts, and that's kind of where that came from. We were like, we see a hole in the content scene. We're just gonna fill it because why not? We have an idea and we can go for it, and especially. I think YouTube, we can also do a better job. Like, there's a few people who do guides, but for the most part, TFT YouTube is just like stream highlights. And at some point, maybe there's just me personally, like I don't really consume YouTube TFT content just because I know it. Like, I see a video with like some clickbait title, and I'm like, okay, this is just GV8 playing a game from his stream, just pulled directly from there, and I'm not gonna get a ton out of it that I wouldn't otherwise get by just watching a stream.
The only good
So-
YouTube content is Mort's, because it's like deeply informative, and
Yeah.
if you missed the
Yes.
he always live streams it. It's really good. And then GV8's morning meta reports, literally the only.
Those are so funny.
I missed the morning meta
Yeah, me
report.
too.
I
They're
haven't
so
seen
good.
those in a while, actually.
I said GV8's name as like YouTube content. I don't need to watch this, but like that's just like the stream highlights. The morning meta report was so good, and that was like a content hole of you woke up today and you don't know what to play. Here you go. Here's what you should play in a short digestible form. That's great content.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there's other people who will have good content, but for the most part, it's just kind of boring. So
Chat's
if-
pointing out some of the good stuff. Like Robin
Yes,
has
for
done a
sure.
few in-depth things. Socks has done like in pockets. He's done
Socks.
serious stuff. Yeah,
Yes.
it's very limited. But the stuff when it does come, I forget it because it doesn't come out that often. But like when it does, it's like, yeah, that is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Sox's content is awesome too, and it's stuff I've learned from. At pretty much every time he releases a video, I learn something because he just has so much knowledge about the game, and he'll turn that into content. But that goes along with he sees a hole in the content space and is filling that. And I would love for more content creators in the scene, and not even necessarily just the content creators, like the pros and the players, to kind of fill that void we have.
Totally.
Yeah, I think set 6 will be a big push. I know personally, like I'm planning to do a big content push set 6. Like this is the
Nice.
start of it. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, I think set 6 will see a lot of growth again in everything, but I think content especially will see a huge growth, especially if the game seems as insane as it's going to be. I think there's going to be a lot of like diversity, like game to game. It sounds like, which leads just lends itself to being like much more content heavy, I guess.
For sure.
And even the what Giant Slayer's doing with first or eighth, like that's a new thing.
Yeah.
It's super cool, and it's not just the TFT thing. It's letting that some of the TFT players showcase their personality, which is something I feel like we don't get a lot of chances to do outside of, oh, you went to this player's stream and then you got to just watch them vibe and you really see their personality. But having a show that puts them together and gets out there, this is what this player's like, and it's something I've wished we can get a little more from like events and stuff too, like having little like player profiles and just anything that's giving more personality, because that's really what makes a scene thrive. It's not just the game, it's not just how good the players are, it's the personality behind the players, and getting to see more of that is fantastic.
Yeah, I think duo queue is going to be so good for TFT content. I think it's hard to like. I think content creation TFT is a little awkward potentially sometimes, just because like it's a single player game. Like you're in your own little microcosm in your own stream. You know, you don't really see interactions a lot between multiple people, which is why people have been enjoying like watching Soju and people like duo queue, watching Kevin and Dax duo queue. You know, it's very fun to watch that kind of interaction between like personalities, and that is great content for the scene. So duo queue itself, duo queue is going to be so good, I think, for the content side of TFT. It just opens up a whole new basket of fun, I would say. So
For sure.
we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I tune into TFT stream and I hear that it's a conversation going on, I'm instantly more excited. I'm like, oh, who is it? What is this dynamic going to be? Is the dynamic I want to opt into right now? Right. Sometimes I would wish they weren't there, but I'm always excited at first. And then I kind of figure out like whether or not it's something I actually want to stay on. And sometimes it's like way more meme heavy, or like if Soju's coaching Emily, like, you know, it's a disaster, right? Like the game is not going to go well. And so you're tuning in for that. Right? And they're opting into it together, right? Like it's for sure a mutual thing. And then, but then if you tune in and Ramblin' and Robin are on call together, you're about to get hit with some heavy educational content, right? And I am here for that. Like there are very few things more interesting to me personally as a viewer than like listening to them seriously prepping for a tourney together and having the conversation, because they pull information out of each other that you wish you could. It's almost like there's like live Twitch chat, but Twitch chat only cares about the good stuff, and there's like no memeing. They're just like straight down to business. And so it's great. It's such good content.
Yo, speaking of Ramblin' and Robin, I just wanted to shout out Frodan in the chat. A couple nights ago, we ended their no losing streak in their in-houses. Yes. Frodan was high as fuck, as he mentioned, and I was doing some work, but we gave them the clapping. We gave them the work.
Not bad. It's impressive because
everyone knew.
Snitch.
You were literally in Robin's chat.
Yeah, I mean, he literally did. I think I screenshotted it actually and sent it to him, because someone sent me the clip of it, and there's just Frodan in chat going, "Hi, diff."
It's especially impressive knowing how Kevin plays when he's in call, having played with him in call, and having played with like watched him in Dax in call, and play with him in call. Well, Kevin in call is not taking the game seriously one fucking bit.
Yes.
So with high Frodan as well, it's like two negatives.
We actually weren't in call there. We were just completely. We were talking in chat. That was it.
Missed opportunity. I would have.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Frodan hit Jax 3. I hit Zyra 3. Boom.
Not bad. Not bad. We take those. Let's fucking go, boys.
Take down the sweat.
I think watching duo queue content as the game is right now is so entertaining. So when the game supports that to a higher degree, it's gonna be fucking amazing. Totally. It's not even gonna be comparable. It's gonna be so fun. I'm excited.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, I know Bryce is itching for this. It's
TierList time?
Okay.
So we want to talk a little bit about. So it's my understanding these tier lists are lists of players tell me if I get this wrong, because I wasn't. Tell me if I get it wrong. It was a list of players that we think are the best in NA right now and will be good moving forward as well.
I think it's a set 6 list. That's how I did it, at least. It was like I thought the question we were trying to answer was who rank them in order of most likely to win set 6 worlds from NA
Okay.
specifically.
Gotcha. We can just talk about what I made a little bit of different list. We can just talk about our own list.
All right, I'll make a
Show and tell.
transition.
We
here.
all
Show and
picked the
tell, baby.
question and
Also-
then answered the question. Whether or not there was the same question, we did not agree.
Yeah.
I didn't manage to get the video feed, so this is what we got.
Can you screen share or do I need to pull up the stream?
I have the list.
Probably should pull up the stream.
just gonna pull up the
It's
stream
like
and
very
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if the camera is working on the stream.
But in general, though, we were thinking just like looking forward to competitive in set 6, like. And Bryce's specific was who's going to win set 6 worlds, and I kind of interpreted that as just like who to look for in set in set 6 that's going to succeed generally.
Okay.
So
Yeah, mine was
So Appies gave 5 players.
Yes. So I'll tell you why. I'll just go first, I guess. So these 5 players, I think I view this like skill gaps in TFT a little bit differently, more than likely here, but I think these 5 players are the best players in NA right now, and they will be the most consistent players in NA moving forward. I think my personal reason behind that is I think they are a mix of players who, I think Socks and Milk are examples of players who can change their play style very drastically to fit a meta, to fit any kind of tournament meta, any kind of ladder meta, literally whatever they want. They're very flexible. They are just good at adapting their game plan. And I think RamKev, Ramblin, and Robin are just players whose game plan is just so strong and so cohesive to itself. Like, it makes so much sense within itself that it will never be weak no matter what the game looks like. So I think these are the 5 players that I think are going to be strong no matter what the game looks like, no matter what happens to the game. I think they're just the ones that can adapt the best, as well as the ones that just their game plan doesn't even need to adapt. And then I think everyone else is. I'll talk about that after, I guess. The Error 404, but
Yeah, what?
did you?
It was special.
Kevin, are you working on getting it so that you can see our videos?
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys. I can do this.
I
God.
assume the list underneath us, our
Yes.
names are our lists, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jirachy, did you make the same list as me, or did you make a different list? What was your question?
I was looking. I don't know about winning set 6 worlds. In my mind, it was more just like who do I think is going to succeed? And once you get to the bottom of the list, it also was like who do I think is going to break out? Because I wanted to talk about some of the people who aren't like the mainstays, because I think that's kind of that kind of happened in set 5 where most of the competitive players we had were just like mainstays. We didn't have a ton of new blood coming in like we did in set 4. Like you think of how much new blood came in set 4, like all the IG boys, Ramblin came up, Hockey, I guess RamKev kind of goes into the set 4 conversation. I mean, you could throw me in as well. Like there were a ton of people that came up in set 4. Set 5, like Voidsons? That was about it from set 5. So I'm also trying to like look forward a little bit and think who is performing well this set, who has been grinding, and who do I think is the most likely to translate that into success in set 6. So
That makes perfect sense.
That's kind of where I'm coming from, yeah.
So I did my list like very specifically.
Hey, Kevin got it. Fuck yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, Kevin.
I'm a
You can do it. You can get 1700 LP in make video cameras.
Much like the North American League of Legends, I always believed in you. I never doubted. There was never a moment in time in which I thought to myself, he's not going to do this.
Oh man.
My streamer.
man.
Okay,
Hands up.
so I did this list like very specifically about who I think is going to win set 6 worlds.
Gotcha.
And I think it matters because there were multiple of my ranks that got heavily influenced by that, I think. So for example, GV8, I would not have ranked this highly as a set 5 player, but as a set 6 player, I think it's going to be a huge flexibility oriented set with how the like format is going to work for the set. I think it's going to be more fluid than it's ever been. And I think that GV8 is the best patch day player by a wide margin. I think it's because his intuitive grasp and he literally is. I think the criticism of GV8's tournament play is that he plays like it's ladder, and so he literally just like whatever the game gives him, he's willing to like buy it, slam it, play it, whatever the fuck, like it doesn't matter. And that works when you're playing against people much worse than you, but when you're playing against people who are better than you and optimizing paths to success differently, I think you just like constantly line up in these situations where you like are up in HP and then you just like flame out of the lobby. And then if you don't get up in HP, you do even worse because you're not used to playing the other style. But I think that in set 6, if it's like heavy flexibility, what augments did you get? What does that mean? Like full fluidity, I think GV8 could become a beast again. Like I think that this guy's like intuitive grasp, the way in which he approaches the game could be really, really good for set 6 specifically. But he doesn't even make my top 10 and out list of set 5. I'm not even sure he makes my top 15. Like, to be honest with you, when I did my power rankings for regionals, I put him like 14th or 15th, I think. And I stand by that. Like, I just, I felt bad because he's like, GV8 is one of the people, I love GV8 so much. He's one of the people who got me into TFT. He's like one of the first TFT influencers that I ever, like, I'm sub to GV8 longer than I'm sub to anyone on Twitch in my life. And so I like really, really think highly of him as a creator, as a player, but I think this was not his set. But I think set 6 might be. So we'll see. So that's just one player, but then like the overall list, obviously everyone knows I'm the biggest RamKev stan, so like he's got to be number 1.
Let's go.
I think that Ramblin is the most underrated TFT player in the world.
He's so good. He's so fucking good.
I think people like miss the dynamic of this set. Yeah, he is the most prepared TFT player that I have seen. I think that he, like every chat I'm ever in to learn things, he's always there, which also means that he's always there and he's in all the other ones that I'm not in. And he's like Kevin, where he like learns every out, but the difference is Kevin does it by doing and Ramblin does it by studying and then doing. So Kevin will just like get in his account, just fucking tinker around and figure all the same shit out, but he does it all, like Kevin's actually tried to carry every unit, whereas Ramblin will just like see if someone else has tried it, and if it doesn't show promise, he's like, it's like wasted energy. He's like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't need to like play a game of Udyr 3 for the memes. Like if fucking RamKev ever figures that out, then I'll like study whatever he did to figure it out, and then I'll learn it, and I can have that out in my back pocket, right? So yeah, I think Ramblin's nuts. I think Pocky's insane. Milk, obviously. Nubao, it's hard to keep putting him this highly, but because he's never performed in tournaments. But again, the raw skill factors there, and if this is a game that rewards like fluid creative play, I think it could be a really, really good set for Nubao. So I think if I did my my worlds list for this year, he would not be this highly. But if I did my worlds list for set 6, he will be. Socks is just dad debuffed. I think the set will be amazing for him. I just think I'm in it right now, and I just like I don't know how the fuck how he could do it. How he could like have a job and play at like better than a top 8 in North American level.
Yeah, that was kind of my reasoning for putting Socks lower as well. Like without dad debuff, he's top 3 for sure.
Yes,
probably second in true Socks fashion, but dad debuff for sure.
Yeah. I'm Melton Heart? That's kind of crazy to me.
Oh, I didn't include a lot of people on my list because I have a bad memory and I'm terrible of remembering who plays this game. Like, I didn't include Socks on here.
Wait, Socks isn't even on his list. That's so good.
So Kevin's gonna need to do some revision, but
it was done quickly. It's a rough idea of who. I guess more or less it's a rough idea of who we think is strong, who we think is gonna do well, right?
Yeah, I'm not. Is Jiggly like an NA resident?
I think so, but I also
China resident. Am I wrong?
He hasn't really gone for competitive stuff. That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's true.
He kind of just sticks with ladder.
Is it like a?
I don't know, and this is where also some like
a Gunther situation, right?
Some kind of like insider info, but the guys over in Yuban's server have made a clan because they're they're kind of taking inspiration from Korea, and so there's the Monkey Dog clan now, which if you've seen on Ladder, a bunch of people have the MD in front of their name now. That's what that's a reference to. But
Wait, I thought that was a secret. I thought nobody was supposed to know.
You know, I asked Rue what it stood for, and she said "my dick in your mouth."
that's what
Yeah.
Memo said too. Yeah, but it's. But and part of the insider info is that they're really trying to go hard on like competitive stuff, like helping each other out. They're trying to get a PBE scrim block set up with some Korean clan. I don't know all the details on it. It's not finalized, but like we're trying to go ham on this, and also
Who's
coming from
who's the group of players? Who's in MD?
Oh,
Obviously Beppo.
Let me pull this up.
Beppo,
because
Yubin, Rue.
It's nuts.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Yubin, Pocky, Jiggly, Rue, Arrow, me, Beppo, Simple Plan, Melton Heart, Voidsons, Spencer, Jose Paulo, Kajaus, Ruel.
Wait, I love this. It's such a good group
lineup.
because with the exception of Spencer, who I think is an outlier in this whole group, it's a whole bunch of players who when I built a second list that was my 5 players to watch next set, and so I didn't put them in the top 15, but they're like all on that list. It's like you basically compiled the group of people who are all like the next in line, and if they can make the jump in their caliber of play, all of them can be competitive at the level of we're talking about. And just a question of like, can they do it? Can they make that jump? So I think it's a really cool thing.
Exactly, and that's why I think that I think that people from that list specifically are going to make that jump because they're putting in the time. And also I'm realizing now, I thought Casper was formerly part of it, but I mean if Casper hasn't joined Monkey Dogs yet, it's a matter of time. But it's if you're joining this, it's clear like you want to go hard in some way or another, and you have that drive and motivation. Whether that translates to actually succeeding isn't a guarantee, but having the motivation behind it is the first step. If you don't have that, then it's hard to get anywhere.
Yeah. And by the way, if we look at this group of 15 players, fewer than half of them are preparing seriously, right? Like really seriously in the way that at least I set a high bar for this stuff, but like the way in which I would view preparing seriously. So you can outwork this list. You can't outwork Ramblin'. There's no shot.
Oh,
but
absolutely
but there
not,
are
yeah.
people on this list, many of them, that you can outwork.
Like me. Let's go.
You're quiet about this. You do put in the work. You just put it in a very different way than the rest of this list. You just play infinite games and try infinite things. And in the back, I don't know how you do this, but you're like, the foreground is all memes and fun, but somewhere in the back of your brain is the 2% that is actually filing with the information like, okay, that item unit combination actually doesn't work, or like you can't actually make that pivot in that spot or whatever, and you actually retain all of it, and then when you try, it's like coming out of a hyperbolic time chamber or whatever.
True. That's why I had to keep my second account. So
I like
we can save. I think I have more account on Spider Rider than I have on my actual one, actually.
Sounds right.
Arachno power. Arachnia power. Arachna power.
Arachno power.
Arachna power.
Oh man. I tried to play Poppy 3 the other day and it did not go well. That unit is bad.
Sloppy Poppy? Yeah, Sloppy Poppy's a bad comp. Bad comp. It's like Dommy Mommy.
Yeah, exactly. I needed Sense. Actually, Sense Fat Poppy would be kind of bad. It would be kind of good. I'm not gonna lie.
I want to talk about my list. And I want to talk about why. I guess this list like this is how I perceive skill and how I perceive like the ability to get better in TFT. Which feel free to disagree with after I finish talking about it. But so in my opinion, I think the top 15 to 20 players, fundamentals wise, I think there's very little difference. I think the fundamentals of TFT are such that like everyone in top 20, no one's gonna be bad at making econ, no one's gonna be bad at playing strong sport. Like there's people are just they're good at the game. I think they're good at the game. And so what differences that come out are play style. And so what I mean by play style is I talk about this a lot when I coach. I say that play style is kind of your values of certain decisions. It's like the cohesive, like a good play style. So I think these top 5 players that I put: RamKev, Milk, Sox, Ramblin, Robin, particularly RamKev, Roblin, RamKev, Ramblin, and
Both
Robin. I feel that they don't really switch up their game plan, but they don't need to because their game plan is it makes so much sense within itself, right? Every decision makes so much sense in the context of every decision they make. But they don't need to change their game plan. That works well in ladder. It works well in tournament. This is also why I don't think there's such thing as a ladder player, which I know Bryce disagrees with, but I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it. Um, so those 3 players, I think their game plan is they're like the decisions they make and the value on certain decisions. Everything makes so much sense in the context of itself that it's like iron tight, right? The chain links that will not come apart. So they will be strong no matter what. And then people like Milk and Socks, I feel like their play styles are such that they're willing to change it, right? It's almost like they have a kaleidoscope. They're looking through different lenses. They're like switching it, right? They can both. We've seen they can both one trick reroll. We've seen Socks with Bang Bros in set 3. We've seen Milk with Kled. We've also seen Milk play like very good flex. The same set that he decided to just play Kled every game. So they're just so good at making these game plans that fit metas in particular that they, unlike like Ramblin, Robin, and RamKev, who their game plan is very airtight no matter what the game looks like, they can adapt a game plan to a meta that is maybe not as airtight in every single situation, every single meta, every single whatever, compared to those 3, but they will consistently adapt their game plan, right? And so I think the difference between the ladder, so here's why I think that they're like 5 to 20 is very similar, or like 6 to 20-ish, is that everyone in 6 to 20 has made a game plan good. They've gone to a point in TFT. Their fundamentals are there. They are all there. Their fundamentals are not any worse than RamKev, Milk, Socks, Ramblin, Robin, in my opinion. Their game plan is worse. Their game plan, not worse, but it's not as cohesive, I would say. By worse, I mean cohesive. Doesn't make as much sense. It's not as airtight. But they've all gotten there, right? They've all gone to a point where, let's say ladder. You know, if you get top 10 on ladder, you know how to play TFT. You're top 10 in NA. You know how to play TFT. The thing is that a game plan, there are certain game plans that translate from ladder to tournament, right? Case in point, RamKev, Ramblin, Robin. Their game plans, great on ladder, great in tournament play. Some other players, let's say New Bowel, game plan is great on ladder, does not translate well to tournament play. But they still got to a point where New Bell still got to a point where he made a game plan, he made a play style that was so good on ladder that he has consistently been like top 10 rank 1, right? So we know he can get there. We know he can make a game plan like that. So it's like, yeah, they might not be the best in tournament right now, but there's so much potential for someone like New Bowel to just like make a game plan that like rewrite it, rewrite the set of values, make it work in tournament. I don't think tournament is harder than ladder. I think it's different than ladder. And I think their play styles, the airtight play styles of someone like, again, Ramblin, Robin, RamKev, they work both ways. They work on ladder, they work in tournament. But I think there are a lot of play styles that work in ladder that don't work in tournament. And there's also the other way around. Some people do well in tournament, don't do well in ladder. You see these random Masters players who will like randomly do super well in a tournament. And so I guess what I'm saying is that I think anyone, especially with set 6 and how forward thinking I guess the TFT community is and like getting better, I think there's gonna be a lot of players who are willing to rewrite how they play the game in such a way that it fits a tournament meta more than it does right now. So that's my 2 cents.
God, I have so many thoughts, but I should
I go over my list first?
Yeah,
Before we dive into. Okay, guys. So we've established this list is a meme. I didn't really think of everybody. There are a lot of people missing. That's my bad. First thing, I just want to point out that I left Nubel off of my list, and he will forever be off of my list for at least 2 years. Because I had him in a game once, and I saw him sell Udyr 3 on level 9 and put all of the Udyr items on a Kale 2. So, never, ever, never, ever. Okay? Nubel is not even top 1,000. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, And then everything else. Like, the thing is, I feel like
Robin at 1. That's surprising to me. Can you?
Oh, this is just like I based it off of set 5 performance, like
okay.
throughout set 5 and 5.5 is what I.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Because he's in my top 3 for set 5 as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that like, I personally think it's hard to assess players unless you really like watch their stream and you know what's up and you know how they play and you know what decisions they make for like the only way that you can really like the only thing that you can look out besides that is like where they are on ladder and how they're placing in tournaments, right? But I think those really aren't like both metrics aren't too great in terms of assessing how good a player actually is, just because like you can high roll a day in tournament, right? It's completely possible. You can spam one comp on ladder and you can get away with that, right? Sometimes. So these are the most informed decisions. I think but a lot like most of the players in this list, the way that I base it off of, the other thing that I like to base it off of is like it's kind of like lobby pressure. So like I was thinking about this lot in like set 4, for example, is when you play against a good player a lot, right? They'll be in your lobby and you will feel their presence, right? You'll see them like hard streaking in the early game. Like they'll be like 30 health over everybody else, like every single game, or like 80% of the games that you have them in, right? And you'll sort of you'll know that they're in your lobby.
Or
right?
the other way they do is they'll lean loss streak, and whether they're stabilizing on 4-2, 4-3, 4-5, whatever it is, they'll like hard stabilize, right? And then like you look at that board, you're like, I'm not beating that board until stage 7.
Yeah, I think Milk, for example, is the player that's super like that, right? Like you'll see Milk in your lobby, and you'll see him losing the early game, but you'll know like it's either 3-5 or 4-1. He's gonna win every single round for like at least 10 rounds,
And
like,
I'll throw out there, same thing with Spencer, actually. Like, and he's that's the reason I value Spencer so highly, because if I see Spencer at 1 life, he is very not dead. Like, and I remember a game in regionals. I think he was playing Vel'Koz, and he had like Shojin Arc and like or like not the greatest Vel'Koz items, but he had a Vel'Koz too, and he was on 4 HP on 5-1. And he brought it back to a top 4, and he was streaking, and I was like, Jesus, like, I can look at this board and be like, okay, I see flaws, but it does not matter, because Spencer can streak with any remotely good board, and it's nuts.
Yeah, Spencer and Milk being 2 of our 3 reps is very interesting, because I think that whereas other regions like China lean very heavily into loss streak style, and like all of their top players are very comfortable playing from that, I think a huge percentage of North American players are not comfortable playing from heavy loss streak in the way that Milk and Spencer are, and they both favor it. I mean, they're both capable of streaking, but they will identify that their board is streaking on like 2-1, 2-2. Otherwise, they are leaning full into loss streak, preserving HP, and figuring out how to build their economy and figuring out when they need to transition to build an insanely strong board. It's also why it's a higher variance tournament style, to be honest with you, because if you don't stabilizing in a tournament is harder than stabilizing on ladder, where you oftentimes get away with a fight 1 or 2 turns after you stabilize, where you haven't fully made the transition. And in tournament, you don't get away with that fight a lot of the time. And so it's hard. I thought Spencer played well day 1. I think Spencer just low rolled a little bit. I think Spencer was absolutely among the 10 best players at Worlds this year. I think he was quite good. But it's hard, the very low volume of games. Okay, can I respond to Appies, or do you want to keep? I have like so many thoughts about Appies situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like I disagree with you at like so many layers of this. So
that's what I was looking for. I figured this would happen.
Okay,
Spicy.
I disagree with you about the like how you evaluate these players. I think of some of these players differently than how you think about them. I disagree with you certainly about the ladder player versus tournament player thing, and I actually did not love my answer about that on the podcast, the Giant Slayer one, so I might try to give a V2 of that. And then I also disagree with you in terms of the notion that the like top, like there's a skill gap between top 5 and then 6 and down, and that all those players are roughly equal in skill. I think there are quite large skill expression gaps between a lot of these players. And I think you're right that they all know how to make econ, and they're all generally speaking capable of playing best board. But to say that like they all play best board equally effectively is so wrong from my perspective. Like, RamKev was saying there's the data you can get, you need to watch these players to do it. That's what I'm saying. When I like prep for regionals, every single one of these players I watched. Like really watched. Like there's a reason why I knew RamKev was going to be good before other people, and it was because I was paying fucking attention. If you watched the stream when he was actually like when he was like trying, right, in the lead up to regionals last year, I was like, wait, this guy's like there's like way more nuance to this. Like he's playing way wider than most of the field. Like he's controlling for variance at a level that most of this field isn't, and he's capable of playing top end the same way. So like this feels like a no-brainer pick to me. When no one last regional was talking about him, and I watch everyone on these lists that way. So like to say that they're all the same skill, like Robin cannot roll and transition a board in a turn. He can't. Not in the way that
I don't think he needs to. I think his
Well,
playstyle doesn't require him to. I guess we'll walk. Yeah,
I don't think that's true though. I don't think that's true though, Appy. Is like I think that's disingenuous. I agree that he plays a more solid style build a play style that accounts for his weaknesses. He's among the best prepared and thoughtful players that we have. And I picked him as among my top 3 for this year going into regionals because I thought really highly of where he was at that time. So I'm not saying that he can't make up for it in other ways, but I'm saying that there's real skill that he is missing. In terms of he doesn't need to every game because of the way he plays, but he gets into games, 1 out of 5 times, 1 out of 6 times, where the ability to roll his full gold and transition his board in a single turn and stabilize would have made the difference of multiple placements, and he can't do it. Not consistently. He can do it if the roll downs show him what he's looking for, right? He can do it if it's clicking, but if the game is keeping him like he's rolling down, flexing between like Jax and Lucian, even on trees he really knows, and he's trying to stay open to both of them, he's picking up units for both of them on the way, he can't do it. I've seen Spencer get through 70 gold and transition his board and then scout in the same turn, right? And he does that consistently. Because that's the way that he plays the game. He understands that like he needs to be comfortable playing from behind. He can't afford to fuck up that transition turn. And that's a huge skill expression thing. I'll give you another one. Some of these players are very thoughtful about positioning, and some of them are not at all. Some of them have basically no nuance to their positioning. Some of them are extremely predictable in their positioning, like where I'm watching them, and I'm thinking to myself, man, if I was a tournament player heading into this, I could eat this person's lunch because 100 times out of 100, when this person shows you a board swap from left to right on back line in the final 10 seconds of the round, they are phantom swapping back left 100 times out of 100. And so I know where they will be positioning their carries, and I will always win that positioning battle. And that's just predictability in positioning, to say nothing about like lack of nuance in the positioning and understanding of units and cadence of casting and where are safe squares, and like why so many NA players were so bad at Draven is because it was like we couldn't figure out how to make him work, and then China started playing him, and people saw China frontlining Draven, were like, great, I just frontline Draven, and like that's what makes it good, and they're like really struggling. And I paid this price too. Like I played a bunch of Draven games, I couldn't get it to work, and then it finally clicked, and it's like, oh, this positioning nuance is like light years beyond just like, is it front low? Is it frontline? Like there are certain matchups where it's frontline, certain matchups where it's second row, certain matchups where it's third row, certain matchups where you want to be into them versus not into them, certain matchups where back middle is actually really good. People started sleeping on back middle positioning, but when Revenants fell out of the meta, there's no general CC units in the middle of the map in the way that we're used to. And so back middle Draven became really good for a little while. There's like this is just very specific skill-based stuff that if you power rank in each of these different skills, these lists, I'm gonna have fundamentally different list quality, or like they will go in different order. And so like because of that, I think depending on what the meta, it's not just about the gameplay. I think like you have raw skill expression gaps that matter, and you can make up for them in the way that Robin does, and the way that many players do, because basically none of these players are perfect. But
I think that's the big point. That none of the players are perfect, right?
I'm fine with that, but I feel like we have these conversations all the time in TFT where people say it's all this, like they're all roughly the same in skill, and I'm like, no, they're incredibly different in terms of where their strengths, where their weaknesses, and therefore my confidence in them going into an individual tournament, an individual patch goes up or down, but it's not just game plan related. And they can improve too. Like Robin could work on this. Robin could get better at this.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was trying to say, right? I think playstyle is not necessarily just mean game plan. It means what you've built your game around, right? What you value, what you don't value, which also includes stuff like, how much you value the ability to position quickly. how much time you put in that, how much time you put into being able to see a bunch of situations on your roll down, stuff like that, right? This player like Jirachy is so good at like doing these quick swaps that are insane. And then some players just play the mind game. I remember Robin saying that he just played the mind game against like Soju in tournament. You know, he knew Soju was gonna move back, so or he knew that Soju knew he was gonna move back or something. So
Yep.
there's certainly little stuff like that. What I was getting at was I guess less that like everyone is equally good at everything. Then I think these 5 players are RamKev, Milk Socks, Ramblin, Robin. I think RamKev, RamKev, Ramblin, Robin are all. I think their game plans, they're just what they do every game. I feel like they're win streaking most games. They know when to get strong. They're airtight. The decisions they make, like there's no gaps, no matter what the game will look like. Let's look at a player like I'm trying to think of who a good player to look at.
Someone who's top but not on these lists, like Pocky or Nubao or something.
Maybe like Nubao, I guess. So I think these, particularly RamKev, Ramblin, Robin, right? These 3 players, I think no matter what the meta looks like. So I look at Robin. So Robin does have trouble potentially some games, right? Like rolling down, seeing everything, doing everything quickly. But I think his game plan, his play style, he could be better at that, right? But he plays in a way where like he doesn't necessarily need to. And again, not that he wouldn't be a better player if he was able to roll faster and do this, but like when your playstyle doesn't really necessitate it, like 9 games out of 10, it doesn't matter if he can roll down super quickly because he's so good at just playing a line every game. He's so good at setting himself up for success. It's like a one-man alley-oop every fucking game with Robin.
I get where you're coming from, but I think it's pretty short-sighted. I think that as time goes on, people are going to get cleaner and cleaner. If you look at like the quality of League of Legends that was played in like season 2 versus now, it's night and day. And in season 2, like we were starting to think about like TP punishing, whereas now if you like don't understand, if you don't track that cooldown and like play around it, then you're an actual moron. Like it's like the notion of being professional and not tracking that stuff is crazy, right? And so I think he can get away with it now. I don't think he gets away with it indefinitely, and I think that all of these players have aspects of their game where they could theoretically work on it. And like, if I was gonna, I think I could coach any of these players, and I wouldn't do any of the work, but I think I could make them better if they would listen to me, if that makes sense. So
it's like you tell them like what to work on,
exactly. Like tell them what to work on, tell them who to study, like watch this game, watch that game, let's talk about it. Like I like start to get them. I don't need Robin to like, okay, it's like what your description Appies is like saying if you're a golfer who like is a good ball striker, you don't need to learn how to like hit the ball out of the rough because you're a good ball striker. So you're always going to be in the fairway. And it's like, okay, you're usually in the fairway, but if when you're not in the fairway, you turn what should be a maybe 4, definitely 5 into a 6 or a 7, then what you've just done from an EV perspective is disastrously bad. And that's how I think about various players on this list and how they approach stuff.
I think I think I might have described that a little bit wrong. So I guess what would you say would be Ramblin's? Let's go with Ramblin. What would you say be Ramblin's weakness?
I'm not sure Ramblin has a weakness. I think that Ramblin. I mean, I put Ramblin second, right? So I think Ramblin's is super underrated. I think that Ramblin plays to among the widest set of outs, but is very controlled in the way that he does it. You're right. He's essentially, I think of him as taking Robin's play style, but playing it wider than Robin and therefore lower variance. He sees more outs. Like Robin does best when working in 2 or 3 trees. Ramblin can work in 10 and be fine, but he's under control. Like Ramblin's not going to, like, for example, the only reason Pocky's not at Worlds is because he decided to slap his assassin spat on his Callista for no fucking reason. Right? But like that's why Pocky wasn't at Worlds, because he doesn't have discipline to his game. Right?
So then what makes RamKev better than Ramblin on your list as well?
I think that RamKev has if there is a weakness, and I'm not sure that this qualifies as a weakness, it's the creativity, the gene that like Sox has, that Nubao has, that GV8 has, that Pokygom has, right? There's a flair to the play. There's a there is an intuitive grasp that gets displayed to me in when a roll down happens, picking up unorthodox units and stabilizing an unorthodox board, or carrying something in an unorthodox way, or recognizing that a board is stable when like conventional wisdom would look at the board and say this board isn't very weak, but there's an ability that some of these players have to actually like find the nuance in this, and I don't see that when I watch Robin play in general. When I watch Ramblin play in general. I'm not saying he never has that creative flair, but if I were to like, I think Ramblin goes into my top 3 in basically like everything I could possibly talk about, but this specifically, he's probably not in my top 5. I think there are a lot of players that are like expressing that skill better. And
Gotcha.
I do think, by the way, that set 6 might be the set where like that's the most important thing. I have to see it in full, but like there's some part of me when I put Ramblin at 2 that's like, oh, I do wonder a little bit about, could I be wrong, because does he have this club in his bag?
Yeah. I agree that I think RamKev and Ramblin are they're almost like two sides of the same coin. I think they both have such insane game plans, but I almost think of I think of RamKev as like SpongeBob the imagination thing, and then Ramblin's like a brick wall. You know, like they're very solid in very different ways, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and I guess
by
what
the
I was
way,
getting at.
Oh, sorry, go for it. I mean,
Sorry, I guess the fundamentals I was talking about, and I didn't account for things I guess like roll speed, identifying. So I guess there is a difference in fundamentals, I would say. I guess I was thinking more about playstyle from a perspective of a game plan. I think there are probably fundamentals differences between 15 to 20, but I think all their game plans are very solid, and I think that people will get better going into set 6. I think a lot of people work on identifying certain things, and like they'll evolve their own play to like help their game plan get better. I think that these five players, in my opinion, I think Robin's game plan. And so I guess I wasn't thinking of Robin as in like, and this is my mistake, as in like he does have trouble rolling down sometimes and like seeing all these different angles. But I think Robin, the thing with his game plan is that less that it's okay that he doesn't see those, but like his game plan is very airtight, in my opinion, compared as RamKev and Ramblins is, in that he just like he knows how to make a line like no one else, in my opinion. He knows how to make a line like absolutely no one else. And so if he can shore up, like there is obviously a fundamental gap, as you said, and that he does need to work on stuff like rolling down very quickly, and then everyone I think has things to work on.
I'm playing wider too, right? Like I think
Yes.
you're not wrong that he's the master of what he does. And I mean, look, when I drafted against Soju, he was my second pick, and I would have picked him second overall that tournament. Like I really believed in Robin going into regionals because it was so clear to me that his beat on the meta was perfect, and the trees that he had perfected were like it was best case scenario Robin. It was like he could fluidly play in and around them, rolling at 7 or rolling at 8. It favored an HP preservation style, which is definitely more of his style. But there was like a fluidity to it that was just wide enough to control variance, but he was at home in every decision that he made. And the thing about Robin is he's one of those people that you can watch and you could point out a stylistic error, but it's very, very hard to point out an error that Robin makes when he's playing at his best within a tree he's confident in. And that's part of the reason why Ramblin's so fucking good, because they were like VOD reviewed and Ramblin was like, you're not making a ton of egregious errors, but like there's some stuff here that I think is worth thinking about, and he can talk Robin out of it. So I think that they're really similar players, and I think that it's purely, I agree with you. It's largely a game plan difference. Ramblin is capable of rolling gold faster and transitioning faster than Robin. He's not elite in that skill, but I think of Ramblin as basically world class in like every single skill in the game.
He's like A tier and everything, he like, but yeah, I think the way I was doing this and what I was looking at in particular, because I do think it'll come a point where like top players are like fundamentals wise, I think there will be. I think game plans will not kind of reach this. They won't be homogenous ever. Yes, but I think like fundamentals wise, everyone will get up to a level. I think over the course of set 6, I think a lot of top players who are people like myself, Jirachy, people who have been coming into the scene, playing a couple tournaments, haven't gotten a lot of tournament experience, have been on the come up for a while. I think set 6 will be the set where players like that start to shore up their fundamentals to the max. And then I don't think there's a problem with their game plans, I guess, is what I'm saying. I think like from a set of like how ironclad like the game plan is, I think those 5 players are the best at making that, like having that or making that or changing that in Sox and Milk's case. And then I think 6 to 20 is just like there are some fundamental gaps to catch up on. Even within the top 5, there's fundamental gaps to catch up on. But I think those like 6 to 20-ish have proven that they can make a very like literate game plan, a very literate like set of decision making like processes. and that will translate if they put in effort. There's a lot of effort to be. It's a big question of how much effort is someone going to put into like really digging in and changing what they need to change to make it work in a tournament environment in the context of a meta. I think there is potentially a faker of TFT in some far off universe where like they just are so. I think there's two potentials, right? There's one where it's like RamKev rambling to the max, where they are just like their game plan is just so amazing that like it doesn't matter what the meta looks like, they'll always do well. And then there's one where it's like they could just like they can sense the meta of a lobby instantly and just like like flow with it. It's all about tempo. It's all about how they affect tempo, I guess. How they control it.
I get where you're coming from. It's so interesting to me that you keep thinking of RamKev as a game plan player. RamKev, I'd be really curious for you to weigh in because my outside looking in is that I do not consider him to like from a game plan perspective. What RamKev's game plan is that he knows literally every out in the game,
and that's his game plan,
right? But that's not a game plan. That's like a.
Playstyle is a better word than game plan. I keep saying game plan. I should be saying.
But like that's like as a play style, that is. Comparing Ramblin and RamKev, or comparing like RamKev and even Socks, like it's a totally different thing. Like RamKev is able to reroll at every cost. He's able to play from behind. He's able to play from ahead. He has preferences depending on the patch. Leans in terms of comps. Understands like. If I have to roll at 6 this game, that means that these are the units that I roll for, and that means that at level 7, if I stabilize in this way, that I can get to level 8, and then therefore these comps are in play. But if I can't, then I'm at 7, and these comps are in play. And he's processing all of that, and like that is, I think reducing that to like game plan or play style is kind of unfair because most human beings cannot process information as quickly as Faker processed it in order to have the 1v1 versus Ryu, right? And so it's not a play style. Like that's like saying a play style is just get good, right? Like it's really, really hard to do that, to process information that quickly and to make decisions based on that. And so when I look at this like your top 5, for example, the only player on that list who I think actually does do that to a certain extent is Ramblin'. And I don't think Milk does at all. I think Milk is among the best and most controlled players and is in control of his game at all times. And he builds a real plan, 100%. And I think Robin is like the pinnacle plan player. And when the meta suits him coming into a tournament, look out because boy, is he terrifying. He's outworking you and he is so thoughtful in each micro decision. But if he tried to just play, like he could not play the way that RamKev plays. And I don't think most human beings can. And so that's why for me it's like sorting them in this way feels odd to me. Like I think your top 5 list is insane. I agree with insane in a positive way. Like I agree with a lot of these players, right? Like all these people are so good in their own right, but for such different reasons that it's really hard for me when as a community we like group them all together. And I think it's part and parcel of this ladder conversation, by the way, not to digress for too long, but like the short version is that ladders is a totally different game. And like saying that someone,
I agree, it's a different game.
Yeah.
So then why do we play style around that? And I think if they can make that, they can make one for tournament as well. I guess my argument for that.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So I look at that very differently because the ability to beat up on people that are worse than you at a thing is a skill for sure, but it's a totally different form of skill expression than the ability to beat up on people in the same format. And it like to go back to GV8, it's exactly why GV8 struggled this set in tournaments because he could beat up on weaker players and his playstyle was very abusive of that. And Soju's the exact same thing in the inverse. GV8's playing from ahead and not getting punished and then able to top 2 in spots that he would bot 4 in tournaments because everyone's actually understanding the relative strength of their board and getting strong when they're supposed to get strong relative to what they're doing. And so he just never, like his power curve is off the mark. Soju's the same thing in the inverse. Like Soju finally going to this regional is the first time I've ever seen him prepare for a tournament to be able to roll on 6 or 7. Like ever. And that is insane when you think about it.
And that's what I think is a big. Yeah, sorry, I was gonna say that's a big thing that I think goes along with what I was saying is that I think people can change their plays. Like if people have made a play style that can perform on ladder, I feel like they can make they can take down the Legos and build another way. I guess
I don't think so at all. Is what I'm saying. I think that like Robin could not try to play a tournament the way that Kevin tries to play the same tournament. I think that would be like a fundamental mistake for him, and that he lacks the skills that allow Kevin to do that. And I think that's the same. Like I think for all these players, they have different strengths that they're bringing to the table. I don't think that Kevin should play the way that Robin is. Because if he did, I think that he would be leaving a lot of his edge on the table, and he'd be trying to mimic someone who has perfected a very specific style that's not at all the way the game intuitively comes to him. Like Robin makes a whole bunch of micro decisions in the early and mid game to set up a perfect game plan and executes against it to perfection. That's like, I just think, a totally different thing. And by the way, like, to close off the Soju point, like, similar thing, it's not like Soju can just say, okay, well, I understand that I play really greedy on ladder, but I can build a successful game plan, and so I can go to tournament and play not greedy. It's like, no, you need like hundreds of reps of playing not greedy against other really good players in order to actually learn that style. You can't just flip and pretend like it's not, like it's a thing. So I don't think most of these players can be that fluid in the way they approach it. I think they can improve on their weaknesses and therefore become different players. But for most of these players, I have not seen the work ethic to do that. I've not seen a serious effort. For players to like fundamentally change that.
Yep, I think work ethic is one of the biggest things that's going to be the determining factor. I have a lot of faith, I guess, that people will be able to do that, but it does take a shit ton of work for sure, right? It takes like an absolute ass ton of work to adapt to an environment that's different, because you get all your practice on ladder, mostly practice on ladder, and it is a very different environment. I guess it's a very different environment than tournament, but I don't think it's such a different environment that you can't adapt to it, but it does take a lot of effort to adapt to it.
Soju would learn something if he spent 100 games saying, I will not play a single game of TFT in which I go to level 8 without rolling unless I am 80 HP or higher. And if I do, then after that game, I have to do 100 push-ups, and I'm going to stop my stream and do it. And that would, Soju would become an 100 times better player, because he would start to better recognize when he needs to roll at 6, when he needs to roll at 7, what units he needs to look for, when he is stable, and when he can go. And while the pressure in that solo queue lobby is not the same as the tournament lobby, there's an unbelievable amount of value that he could glean from doing that. And I think that most players, that's the case, where they could like force themselves out of their comfort zone to see other spots, right? Like play whatever
their biases and rebuilding them, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you need someone to identify them. So you either have to self-identify them, or you have to listen to people when they tell you your weaknesses, and you have to actually be willing to work on it.
I think the key thing and why it is maybe it is maybe a little iffy to say 6-15 all have 6-20 have all the same potential, is I think self-identification is incredibly important. It's something that no one in TFT really does right now. I think there's very few players that self-identify how to adapt to a tournament environment compared to a ladder environment, which is one of the biggest things holding top players back.
Jirachy's good at it. People were always surprised when Jirachy would do well in tournaments, and I was like, Jirachy prepares for tournaments. Jirachy will have a game plan going into the tournament, and will have thought about what the other players are playing and what does that mean about their game plan, and how do they take advantage of that, like where are the leaks, and sometimes that game plan has been wide, and sometimes that game plan has been reroll MF.
Yeah, and going into that, like Dawnbringer Cup, I was almost 2020 LeBlanc. I didn't decide that until like 2 days before.
Yeah.
Because I knew that LeBlanc was a good comp, a solid comp to reroll. Hadn't done it much on ladder because I get contested all the time. But I looked at the other players' lol chests and was like, do any of these people play LeBlanc? No, I see an opening to just slam LeBlanc every game, and it didn't quite work out because I didn't direct advance to mid set. I got my Nightbringer Cup invite from that tournament, which ended up working out because I didn't get a Nightbringer Cup invite off of ladder. Like, the game plan was good enough to get me to the next step, which was good. But yeah, like you said, when you were talking about Robin, I was actually thinking of myself a lot. Like,
I agree.
I have my game plan, and I'm not like super creative about my boards, especially like right now on ladder. Like, I'm playing the most standard boards in history, but I make a bunch of micro decisions early game, and then I know my game plan from there. And which is part of like, if I really want to like push this thing further, I want to study people like Robin, because Robin basically is a better version of me. So, yeah.
That reminds me of the first tournament that I played in, where nobody was playing Talon. I played Talon. That was a great tournament.
Similar mindset. That's how I first climbed to top 10. in set 4.5 because, and this was when Pyriver was really helping me out, and he was basically my coach, like not quite full time, but like pretty close. But we recognized like early game, just one costs are so good, and you can take upgraded Divine Enlightened one costs all the way to level 8 and just play Talon. And no one was doing that. So like it wasn't quite a tournament, but it was still a very set game plan for ladder.
Totally.
Yeah.
So
I guess in summary for like my list, I guess it was more potential, I guess, than anything else. I think there's, in my mind, like 6 to 20 all have they've proven themselves to have the ability to get there, and it's going to be whether they put the effort in or not. Is I guess what it is. So
I will say, there are some players on this list. I've been watching some streams and stuff, and some of the players on this list, I gotta say, I've heard them say things like, Draven is trash, things along those lines. Just learn how to play these comps, man. Just like figure out how to play them. Like, it's not that difficult. Draven is super good. There are a lot of units in this game that are super good, and people are just bad and lazy.
don't build
and
Arvin on
learn how to play these
Yasuo.
comps.
Don't put that
Don't
item on
build it.
Yasuo.
See, this is why I'm saying you can't, like, calling Kevin a game plan player is like not doing justice, right? Because it's like there are people who build game plans that are narrow because they can't see it, right? And that's with that, like, a really simple way of like putting, when we're talking about like what if there is a weakness to Ramblin', like when you watch Kevin play, when you watch Socks play, when it's clicking for Socks, when you watch Pocky play, they're seeing it, they're seeing the whole board in a different way. And it's that's when TFT for me is beautiful. That's like when it's like, oh my god, like this line is so cool, and like every layer of it, they understood it so much deeper, despite the fact that it was the first time they've ever done it. And yeah, I think like on my list of 15, there's like 4 people who I think I could say that about. So
Yeah. That was a good discussion.
that was a lot. That was fantastic. Oh my god.
But time flies. It is about that time. We can do quickly one question if we have one. Let's see.
I have one I want to talk about. If that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
This from Arphelia. How excited is everyone about LAN events, and also for Bryce about like casting again from a studio? Because let me tell you, I am so excited for live events.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be sick.
It's something we've been missing from TFT. Like, and I think we were all super hyped about Worlds because it was like, okay, finally, like live World Championship with like maybe probably not an audience, but like all the bells and whistles of being a live event, and then it kind of just got taken away from us.
Yep.
But with like COVID getting better. Obviously, it's not like we haven't gotten rid of COVID completely, but it is getting better, and it's gotten better to the point that like Giant Slayer, that for anyone that hasn't seen, they announced they're partnering with Mall of America, or Giant Slayer's parent company, Wisdom, is partnering with Mall of America for like a live event type thing. And it's not just TFT, it's across like all their properties. But I mean, what that means for us is live TFT events, and it's not just, oh, like we're gonna have set 5 worlds in China and then actually not. Like maybe a little more consistent live events is something we've very much been missing, and I think is gonna be so cool.
+1.
Yeah.
I mean, I casting in person is like 100 times better than casting remotely. You can feed off each other's body energy. You can actually read each other in the conversation and see, like when I'm casting with someone, I'm on video with them, right? I can't see them. So I can't see if like someone's leaning in to make a point, or if they're like clearly are fine with me going on, right? Like you can't build off each other's energy in the same way. So that sucks. I'm also just excited to meet everyone. I feel like I've spent so much time hanging out with everyone online. I'm just genuinely excited to be in the same physical location with everyone and be able to like grab a beer and just shoot the shit and not talk about TFT. I mean, we'll probably talk about TFT, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
From having hung out with people IRL last weekend, you talk about TFT still.
Yeah,
like it'll inevitably happen. But yeah, like having that in-person interaction, especially as a caster, is gonna be just it's going to be so cool to match like bodies to like the faces and voices we've been seeing and hearing for the past like year and a half now. So, and I'm actually really excited for if I get the chance to cast live, because when I was watching set 5 regionals and I saw the live studio, I was looking at that, I was like, that's sick. I want to do this. please get me on this desk. That would be amazing. So
You can do it.
hopefully I get to do that.
If you work at it, you'll get there. I don't know if it'll be set 6, but if you work at it and you push for it, you will.
I appreciate that.
Speaking of live beat-ups too, Kevin, you, Jack, and I also heard P-God's in the area too.
Yeah,
You need to hang
P-God's
out.
in the area. You know, if you want to, Ori is coming next week. Around Thursday or Friday time. If you come through, we can all have like a big party event thing.
I'm down. I'm
big
down.
party
A
event.
big party
thing.
event.
A
Way to
big
sell
party
it.
event thing.
Way to sell it.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
It's dinner. It's dinner. It'll be dinner. It'll be dinner.
It'll be dinner in a live studio.
Sounds like a plan.
Oh,
All right.
also along IRL, Necra is also in Philly, and we've both been busy for the past like month and a half, but I'm getting lunch with her on Sunday, and I get to meet her, and I'm so excited.
Oh, nice.
She's
Hell
great.
yeah.
Yeah,
She's
so
It's so cool to see TFT moving to offline. It's so cool.
agreed.
Hell yeah. Well, on that note, we are a little bit over time, so I apologize for that. But thank you so much, chat, for watching. Bryce, thank you so much for joining us. You have some amazing takes, some amazing things to say, and you were a godly guest. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was super fun.
Yeah, and thank you so much, RamKev and Jirachy, for being co-hosts. And until next week, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you later. Peace out.
Ooh, ooh.